In today's Villains Corner, we'll go over the story of Malygos, one of the original dragon aspects, who actually started his story off as sort of a good guy. But then, through a series of unfortunate circumstances, Malygos kind of went crazy, and instead became the first dragon aspect we had to kill in-game as a boss. But he would not be the last. Malygos' story starts off with the story of Galakrond. Galakrond was a huge proto-drake who gained necrotic powers from eating so many corpses of his own kind, which caused some of them to reanimate, and became some of the first undead to walk Azeroth. Malygos at this time was still a normal proto-drake, and not yet a dragon. But for a proto-drake, Malygos was very smart, and had the unique ability to breathe a frost breath. And Malygos was best buddies with this other proto-drake who would later be known as Deathwing. So obviously, a giant cannibalistic proto-drake with an army of undead proto-drakes was a huge problem. So much of a problem that the Titan Keeper Tyr came by to check it out, and helped a group of 5 exceptional proto-drakes in their fight with Galakrond. They ended up losing their first fight though, and Tyr goes missing after losing his hand in the battle. Malygos and the other 4 future aspects rally together and decided to try again, only with tactics this time. Malygos suggested shoving a giant-ass boulder down Galakrond's fat throat, since he likes to eat everything, so that he might choke to death on it. So they then went out to try to put this plan into action, and what do you know? It went off smoothly. But Galakrond doesn't die right away, and is just kind of slowly choking to death while the zombie dragons fight for him. So Malygos, freezes the stone in place so he can't dislodge it, and Deathwing throws one of the zombie dragons in there to push it down further, which finally kills Galakrond. And with Galakrond dead, the zombie dragons start fighting each other, and kind of take care of themselves. After Galakrond's defeat, 2 other Titan Keepers showed up and told them they had found Tyr and taken him to safety. They were also super impressed that 5 drakes could take out a monster that even a Titan Keeper lost to, and decided to turn them into the dragon aspects. So with the help of all of the Titan Keepers except Odin, they gave the 5 aspects their powers, with Loken being the one to give Malygos his power over arcane magic, and was to be its protector. They also magically altered a bunch of proto-dragon eggs into dragon eggs, and thus created the Dragonflights. Some years later, Loken decides to betray the other Titan Keepers and take control. And 2 of his giants decide to take the Storm Peaks for themselves, and decide to use the Winter-Scorn Vicruel as their army to do so, because they were the most violent tribe. So they built giant golems and captured proto-drakes with magical restraints. Then they attacked the Earthen in the region and completely massacred them. But survivors managed to find the Keeper Tyr and asked for help. Tyr wasn't about to defeat the Winter-Scorn with just him and 2 other Titan Keepers, so Tyr asked the aspects for help. The 5 aspects agreed to help and just completely destroyed them. Malygos was able to magic drain the giant golems and constructs, and free the captured proto-drakes who were being held with enchanted snares and used as beasts of war. They then covered the Winter-Scorn village with mists and put them all to sleep so they wouldn't go off and just kill another village. Then the War of the Ancients happened. Malfurion called on the aspects to help as they were losing pretty badly to the Legion. Deathwing came up with an idea for the Dragon Soul to close the portals the demons were using. So Malygos went to the other aspects and convinced them to lend Deathwing their power to create the artifact. Then, after making the Dragon Soul, Deathwing used it to lash out at both the aspects and the demons, demanding that they bow before and serve him. So Malygos and his blue Dragonflight surrounded Deathwing in an attempt to take the Dragon Soul with pure numbers, only to be completely wiped out. Sindragosa was also part of the blue dragons who surrounded Deathwing, and got hit so hard by the Dragon Soul, her beaten body got thrown all the way to Northrend, where she eventually died from her wounds trying to get back. Malygos was injured both physically and mentally in the attack, but not killed. But this event did make Malygos go mad and caused him to retreat to his hideout in Northrend, since he was the one who convinced the other aspects to help make the Dragon Soul, and nearly his entire flight was dead. And while in his hideout, he liked to take the form of a half-elf, half insect-like creature with really, really skinny legs for some reason. And there Malygos stayed for around 10,000 years or so, until one of Alexstrasza's consorts came to Malygos and asked if he would help free her. You see, Alexstrasza was being held captive by the Horde, thanks to the power of the dragon soul that Deathwing had given to them, and they were using Alexstrasza to produce children so they could use them as mounts. These mounts were super duper effective, and were used to sink Derek Proudmoore's fleet during the Second War, who of course was Jaina's oldest brother, and the Alliance would have lost completely due to the Dragon Riders alone, if it wasn't for the fact that the Wildhammer dwarves joined the fray, and could use their Griffin Riders to kill the Dragon Riders, as once the rider was killed, the dragon would just fly away. In exchange for Malygos' help, Coriel Strauss promised that Alexstrasza could use her life powers to rebuild his Dragonflight, and have a chance at getting revenge on Deathwing. With the help of Nozdormu, Ysera, Malygos, and a human mage named Ronan, they were able to free Alexstrasza, beat Deathwing and drive him into hiding, and destroy the Dragon Soul, which returned the aspects back to full power. With his power back, a regrowing Dragonflight, and getting his revenge on Deathwing, Malygos grew slightly less crazy, and came back to his senses somewhat. Sometime later, the blue dragon Tyragosa brought a whole bunch of nether dragons back from Outlands to the Nexus, so they might absorb the magic there and become stable. They instead thought to take the Nexus for themselves and use the power to rule the world, which was kind of noisy and woke Malygos up. Malygos then just straight up absorbed them all. And something about the nether dragon's physical makeup mixed with Malygos's actually helped him regain a lot more of his lost sanity. So with his newfound sanity, he decided it would be a great idea to divert all of the magical energies in the world to the Nexus so that no one else could use it, as it was mortals abusing power in the first place that brought the Legion to Azeroth. The mages of Dalaran eventually started to notice the lack of arcane energy where it used to be in abundance, and they also felt that the source of the disturbance was in Northrend. So a few of them went there to check it out, only to be met by Malygos himself. Malygos then told them all exactly what he was doing, and why he was doing it, and then told them to join him to help him out. Some of the mages agreed and were transformed into the Mage Hunters. Everyone else was killed. Then the war with the Lich King started in full force. After taking out Kel'Thuzad and Naxxramas, they finally discovered what Malygos was up to, and Malygos was getting more aggressive with hunting down mages. Dalaran really didn't want to put their fight against the Lich King on hold, but they didn't really have a choice with Malygos draining their magic. So they teleported their city to the middle of Northrend to better launch an attack on Malygos and the Nexus. The 3 remaining Dragonflights also took part, and decided to help out as they too agreed Malygos' plan was crazy. Plus, Alexstrasza kind of owed Ronan a favor, since he was now the leader of Dalaran. The Kirin Tor also called upon members of the Alliance and the Horde to help him out. Neither Garrosh nor Bolvar Fordragon wanted to divert their attention from the Lich King, but they eventually agreed they really had no choice but to help as they were going to need their mages in the upcoming battle with the Lich King. So with the combined might of 3 of the Dragonflights, the mages of Dalaran, plus the combined forces of the Horde and Alliance, they assaulted Malygos in the Nexus and took him out with their overkill of an army, with Alexstrasza herself landing the finishing blow. And with Malygos dead, that's the end of his story. Malygos, before the War of the Ancients, was described as being kind of playful, optimistic, and always willing to use magic and illusions to entertain people. So if it wasn't for Deathwing's betrayal, he probably would have never gone villain. A lot more happens with the Blue Dragonflight itself after Malygos' death, but none of that really has anything to do with Malygos himself, so we'll end things off here. Alright, and that's the end of the Villain's Corner on Malygos. Again, special thanks to Rachel for doing all of the amazing drawings for this video. This one in particular took quite a long time to do just because of how long it takes to draw dragons, apparently. So if you have a non-dragon villain suggestion for the next Villain's Corner, I'd love to hear them.